Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Hi, hello, how are you? How has your week been? Welcome back to Bookmas. Hope you're having a good time. Today's video was originally going to be me going through every book on my physical TBR, but since I'm in Arizona and I have a very small amount of my actual physical TBR with me, I thought that'd be kind of boring. So now I thought it would be fun to go through all of the books that I have rated 5 stars so far in 2024. The first book that I gave 5 stars was The Graham Effect by Elle Kennedy. Now this book follows Gigi Graham, who is the daughter of the couple from The Deal by Elle Kennedy, which is the first book in the Off-Campus series. She has kind of made a universe, the Briar universe, if you will, that consists of 3 series as of right now. The first one was the Off-Campus series, which focuses on the core 4 dudes. Then there's the Briar U series, which is like 4 spin-offs of other people. And then the Campus Diaries series. So Gigi is a hockey player like her dad, and she desperately wants to make the women's national hockey team, but she is not good enough. And she meets Ryder, who has agreed to help her in exchange for giving him a good word with her father. I remember really liking this book because it didn't have a 3rd act breakup, but it's so interesting now to like look back on this and see that I rated this 5 stars, knowing that since I read this book, I have since DNF'd a reread of the original series. Then we had Cascade, which is the 2nd book in the River of Time series by Lisa T. Berggren. This has easily become one of my most favorite series of all time. It follows Gabby and Leah as they have found themselves transported back in time to 14th century Italy through a time-traveling tunnel, and they are trying desperately to fit in and not get killed, and also somehow live their lives. There may be hot nights involved, but I love this series, and I honestly think that this book might be my favorite in the series. Finale, the final book in the Caraval trilogy by Stephanie Garber. Scarlett and Donatella have always wanted to be able to experience the magic of Caraval, which is kind of like a mix between like a traveling circus escape room type situation. People come from far and wide to play the game of Caraval, or they can just be a spectator. Days before Scarlett is set to get married, Donatella runs off to participate in Caraval, and Scarlett, ever the big sister, follows after Donatella and ends up having to play the game of Caraval to get her sister back. This series is so good. It's so magical, and Stephanie Garber really uses such descriptive language to paint such a clear picture of the setting and everything in your brain, and that just makes the series so much more enjoyable. Powerless by Lauren Roberts. In a society where your powers define your worth, Peyton has done an excellent job of making everyone around her believe that she has powers, when in fact she has none. But how exactly is that going to work when she gets chosen to participate in a series of trials where all of her opponents do have powers? And somehow along the way she manages to capture the attention of both the future king and his brother. This book was so fun to read. It's very reminiscent of The Hunger Games, which are some of my favorite books of all time, and the banter between Peyton and the male main character of this book is just chef's kiss. And then I had a little bit of a dry spell because I read Powerless and rated it 5 stars in February, but my next 5 star was not until May, and that was A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, which is the 2nd book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. There's not much I can say about this book specifically, but overall the series follows Feyre. She lives in a world where humans are incredibly fearful of the Fae people, and there's always the threat of a war in which they would not be able to win looming over their heads. And Feyre accidentally kills a Fae, and as retribution for her crimes, she now has to go live in Prythian, which is the Fae realm, and now she's all caught up within the politics of the Fae people and everything. I have currently read 3 out of the 5 books in the series, and I absolutely love it. but the second book was so good. It is most people's favorite out of the series. But if you have read only the first book, you have no idea what's coming in the second book. Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. Oh my gosh, this book follows Ariana, who has had a crush on her brother's best friend for as long as she can remember. But the summer before they're set to go off to college, they have a bit of a falling out. Yet they are now, along with their entire friend group, which includes her brother, supposed to go to the same university for school. And there she meets Noah Riley, who is the best book boyfriend I have ever read in my entire life. We love Noah Riley. Now this book does very much read like a Wattpad book, and that probably contributed to why I enjoyed this book so much. The third act of this book, nothing at the beginning of the book could allude to what happens at the end. I ate it up, okay? You use the fact that it reads like a Wattpad book as an insult, and I'm like, yes, I will read that. And then we had Torrent, the third book in the River of Time series by Lisa T. Bergren. And now that I think about it, earlier I said that Cascade was my favorite in the series, but Torrent could be my favorite in the series. Not really sure. 12th Night by Alexine Farrell-Fulmuth. This book follows Viola. She overall is just a very angry person. She spends a lot of time playing an online roleplay game called 12th Night, where there she ends up teaming up with a character, and the person behind the character is actually a guy she goes to school with, but she hates his guts. But they begin to develop a friendship through playing this game, and I loved this book, okay? It is a retelling of the same story that She's the Man is based off of, which is favorite movies of all time. I really enjoyed this book. Then we had some of the best books that I read in 2024. My favorite ones, which is the Inheritance Games trilogy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Avery Grams has had an unfortunate life. She's an orphan, she doesn't have a lot of money, lives kind of paycheck to paycheck. Her parents aren't really around. She lives pretty much paycheck to paycheck with her older sister. But all that changes when she suddenly finds herself the heir to one of the richest men in the world that she's never met. And in order for her to be able to get the inheritance, she has to go live for a year at his estate in Texas with all of his family that he has essentially just disinherited. And the whole family has to work together to figure out why Tobias Hawthorne left Avery his entire fortune and what kind of man was he really when he was alive. I absolutely adore this series. It's very similar to Knives Out, the movie, and that is one of my all-time favorite movies. I just love puzzles and like getting to the end of the book and being like, oh my gosh, that's what that thing at the beginning meant. I literally started crying on the plane reading The Final Gambit, which is the third book, because I was just so absolutely overwhelmed thinking about how much time and effort Jennifer Lynn Barnes went into all of the intricacies and callbacks throughout the entire series. Then we had A Court of Wings and Ruin, the third book in the ACOTAR series by Sarah J. Maas. Now, most people, when talking about this series, say that A Court of Mist and Fury was their favorite, but this one was actually my favorite. I sobbed like a crazy person in the last 50 pages. Like, I genuinely think that no book has ever made me cry as much as I cried at Wings and Ruin, which is embarrassing. I didn't originally rate this next book at 5 stars, but I think I'm gonna have to bump it up to 5 stars because I think about this book on a daily basis. That's definitely 5-star energy. But it is Funny Story by Emily Henry. Daphne has just been dumped by her fiance who ran off with his childhood best friend. And she is living in a tiny town where she knows absolutely nobody, which leaves her to room with her ex-fiance's current girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, Miles, who also doesn't really know anybody. And Daphne is counting down the days until she can move out of that town. But maybe she finds she doesn't hate it as much as she thought she did. I loved this book so much, and I truly think that every girl has a Emily Henry main character that they just like so strongly identify with, and mine is definitely Daphne. She and I are so similar in the way that we interact with people, in the way that we approach situations, and just our outlook on life. And I've never felt so called out by a book, but I also thought that this book really lived up to its name of Funny Story. Then we have Powerful by Lauren Roberts, which is book 1.5 in the Powerless trilogy. This is a novella that takes place at the same time as the events of Powerless, but instead it follows Peyton's best friend Adina. And if you've read Powerless, you already know exactly how this book is going to end without even reading it. And somehow I thought that that would make it easier to read. However, somehow in such a short amount of time, Lauren Roberts made me care so much about these characters, and that is just a feat in and of itself. Then Beyond Ivy Walls by Rachel Fordham. This book takes place in like the early 1900s. Sadie has moved to the city to get a job in a factory to be able to send money back to her family. But she is in a rough spot and finds herself homeless, living in an abandoned factory. And the owner of said factory, Otis, finds her and offers her a job at his estate. But he is a recluse due to things that happened in his childhood. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I absolutely loved this book because I really enjoy when you can very clearly see the characters developing their relationship and really getting to know each other. I feel like so often in romance books, like the actual building blocks of the relationship just kind of get swept aside, and like they see each other and they're like, oh, I like you, and then like a lot of nothing happens, and then at the end of the book they are like, oh my gosh, I'm in love with you. But since this was a Beauty and the Beast retelling, the characters obviously had to really get to know each other in order to overcome whatever it was that made the Beast character a beast, you know? And so I really enjoyed that. Run Rose Run by Dolly Parton and James Patterson. This was not a new 5 stars, okay? I have listened to this book 3 times so far. This book follows Annie Lee Keys, who makes her way to Nashville to try to make it in the country music business. And along the way, she meets Ruth Anna Ryder and Ethan Blake, who want to try to help her in her endeavors, but they quickly find out that Annie Lee Keys might have come to Nashville for more than one reason. But this book is so much fun to listen to. It has an entire cast, and the main character, Annie Lee, is narrated by Kelsey Ballerini. But it is just one of those books that I've listened to it 3 times and I enjoy it. I enjoyed it the 3rd time as much as I enjoyed it the first time. Then we had Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. Oh my word. This book. Angel has lived a very hard life. When she was very young, she was sold into prostitution, and so that is kind of all she's known, all that she can remember of her life. That has obviously severely impacted the way that she sees the world and her relationships with other people. She's just kind of going about her life when she meets Michael, who was told by God that Angel was to be his wife. He nurtures her back to health after an incident and teaches her life skills and loves her unconditionally, and he's so patient with her, and he just does everything he can to give her a good life, despite the fact that she kind of hates his guts and doesn't think that she deserves his love. And this book was just so, it's a really great metaphor for our relationship with the Lord, and I just adored this book. And my most recent addition to my 5 stars was The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Cassie has an exceptional ability to look at a person and predict their behavior and tell you things about them, despite the fact that she knows very little to nothing about the person. She gets recruited by the FBI to be a part of a program that allows her to practice and hone her skills in order to be able to help the FBI solve cold cases. This book was so fast-paced and so interesting, and just like the Inheritance games, I read this book so quickly and I ate up every single second of it, and I cannot wait to read the rest of the series. And then of course we have the Harry Potter series, which is nothing new to nobody. So including the entire Harry Potter series, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So far in 2024, I have rated 25 books of 5 stars. I actually had a really fun time planning out this video and like going back and looking at the beginning of the year and seeing like how my reading taste has evolved in just 1 year. I hopefully will have more to add to this list by the end of December because the year is not over yet, but I can definitely say it has been a really good reading year and I cannot wait to see all of the books that I rate a 5 stars in 2025. Anyways guys, that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this day of Bookmas. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up to let me know that you enjoy this type of content, and comment down below your favorite book you have read so far in 2024. And subscribe to my channel for more bookish content in the future. I hope you have a lovely rest of your week and I will see you guys next time. Bye.